I'm going to show you my text to markers script. And I did a video on this for the Everyday Motion podcast that I host and how I make the podcast promos. But of course, I'm doing a little demo here just to show how the script works separate from that. But I'm going to use it in a similar capacity here. So what text to markers does here when I launch the UI is that it converts your pasted text that you paste into here onto your composition or to your selected layer or layers. And it will do it relative to timing of your layers. So it'll do it based on your endpoint or from your endpoint to your out point. And it'll distribute those markers evenly. And similarly to your composition, but that's driven by the work area. So with my layer selected here, I'm going to take these words that are default here as placeholder. I'm just going to hit create. And as you can see, it added all of these words that were separated by spaces. That's the driving pattern here. And distributed them evenly across the layer up until the endpoint. So you can kind of see there's even ranges right there between where the markers are. Awesome. So if I undo that real quick, and I'm just going to say copy this and whoops, and I'm going to hit enter. And you have to force a line break here to make sure the by line pattern will work. So I hit line and I'm going to actually hold shift so it'll go on the composition. And there we go. So we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, 5 markers right there. They all say the same thing. Here, I'm going to show you an example of how I used it on the podcast. Now we're going to do it on a text layer. So it's very similar to how I did it for the podcast promos. I already have these expressions set up. So if I hit UU just to reveal the text animator names. So one of these text animators is going to highlight the last word in white. And then the other text animator is actually going to remove that white word, that highlight word. And we're going to actually just reveal the text that comes before the highlight. So I have these expressions already on there. Again, I showed these in the podcast case study, but I'm not going to go too much into it now. Essentially what these expressions do though is that they're referencing markers on a layer. So I don't have any markers on here, so that's why we're getting an error for the expression. So this is where the text to markers script would come in handy. All right, so I already have text copied to my clipboard, so I'm going to show you how it works here. So I have my layer selected. I'm going to launch my script UI, and I'm just going to paste it in here. So one thing I do want to note is that you'll see all this in here, and it looks like there might be line breaks or whatnot. There are in terms of the text field, but it's not going to register it that way. It's just wrapping the text to the next line based on the conditions that I set up here in the text box. I didn't want it to be too big of a UI. So just keep that in mind. Like if you get some weird results, if you use the script, just make sure that you're hitting space to separate the words. And if you need to force line breaks, hit enter or return on your keyboard. So with all this in mind, I'm going to keep my work area right there and my layers with that duration, and I'm going to hit create, and boom. Here I'm going to get out of that script UI, and if I start here, as you can see, from lorem ipsum over here, and go back into my work area, and officia deserunt. I don't speak Latin, but we have all of our text here by doing a quick little check. So we're not seeing anything right now. Just like with the nature of this expression itself, you kind of have to reset it. I'm not sure why it does it. I think it's a system thing with After Effects, but maybe there's a solution out there that doesn't throw in errors when you add new markers. But cool, as you can see, we're on our lorem, or I guess even better to see is like all these markers have comments on them. So essentially we're converting all this text to markers, and based on how many, we're getting as many markers as there are words. In each of those markers, we're putting into the comment area that specific word. So if I start scrolling here, my key or my timeline, you're going to see some delay just because there are effects happening with posterized time. So if I turn those off, see we're at incident and all this other Latin words. But as I'm scrolling through, it matches up perfectly with what we're going for. And these are in between frames, so that's why we're getting, they can't put their playhead right on the marker. But so this is a really helpful script, especially if you're doing some kind of marker trigger expressions. This really speeds up that workflow and also gives you point of reference with the comments being already on there, and you just know what is happening at all times. Awesome. So now that we've done that, I'm going to go to just show you a quick example of how I did this for the podcast promos. I'm not going to go into this really too much other than just to show you that we have it all set up here as I'm scrolling, and we have an audio spectrum that's matching. And I'm not going to try and play the audio because After Effects plays audio really awfully, especially when I'm recording a screen, I've come to find out. But this was actually pretty easy to make. And I had a clever little system set up where once I did this once, it would auto update everything in the vertical composition. So this was really helpful in streamlining this workflow for me. This could have been a lot more complicated, and I've seen ways now that I could have simplified this specific example, but I saw a need to create this script just for having points of reference, and it kept me sane when trying to move things around, especially if I'm trying to time things out. And, you know, it just would have been really, really painful to try and either painstakingly put all these comments in there, which I've done in the past before I knew how to script, or I just would have been lost with all these blank markers running around. So if you use the text to marker script at all, let me know how you like it. Let me know if you could see any improvements on it, any features you would like in it. I'm always happy to help. I like this tool a lot, and yeah, have fun with it.